in a world of work which isn't necessarily designed for women. There's a real perception, societal expectation of how a woman's going to behave in a particular role. Realising when an environment is not going to change, kind of either shrivel and die, or you have to just step into it. Finding your support crew, they might be within your family, they might be within your friendship group. Finding, do I really believe in it? Is it worth it? It's actually a really difficult path to tread sometimes. I think we also take on a huge amount. If you don't listen, it just gets louder.
Until it screams. What would you say your biggest challenges as a female CEO?
I can go.
Welcome to Women Who Lead. This is the podcast that I wish I'd had when I was a woman in leadership just starting out. So my friends, I have done you a big favor. I have selected some of the most inspiring women in leadership, and I've assembled them in a series of conversations where they're going to share their tips, tricks, frameworks, stories, everything to support you to bloom into the next season of your career. Today, in this episode, we have a very special guest. Although, honestly, gang, I'm always going to tell you it's a special guest. But this guest is especially special because she's actually my bestie as well. So, Clarissa Sowemimo-Coker, welcome to Women Who Lead. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
And even better, we actually, in all my years of podcasting, we never did this podcast before now.
Nope.
Because it was meant to be just like this, in this way, in this space, together like this. So I'm very happy to have you.
Delighted to be here.
So I have questions, big questions.
That's unlike you.
And my first question is for you. What does it mean to be in bloom in life and in work?
It's all about alignment for me and being connected to my purpose, what I'm actually trying to achieve, and making a little bit of progress on that day by day, but while staying connected to who I am and my values. Alignment is sort of the buzzword, I'd say.
And alignment, like for anyone listening, if I think about myself 10 years ago, I'd be like, wait, what? What does that even mean? So can you tell us more about what alignment means for you and maybe how you've managed to find it?
It starts with self-awareness for me and really practicing that kind of mind-body connection. I have been meditating consistently for about coming up to 15 years now, I think. And that's a really important foundation of my day. Living in alignment or being in alignment with my values and my purpose looks a bit like me thinking about the decision I'm making or the activity I'm participating in and whether that's sort of moving me away from or towards who I want to be in the world. And that's kind of how I think about it. But it is absolutely not perfection. It's progress, right? It's not, I mean, old me back in my legal career would have been looking for perfection everywhere. I've let go of that now. And it's about progress.
Yeah, I love that. And so today, gang, because obviously you may not know this yet, you can obviously squirrel away and go and look up exactly what Clarissa does, but she is today a CEO. And so for you in your role as CEO for OCT and coming from the background that you have in law, because obviously there's lots of big stuff that lands on your desk and in your direction generally as a CEO. How do you navigate that? And what is the tension that exists between you staying in alignment with you and you, I guess, navigating and making decisions for your organisation?
It's actually a really difficult path to tread sometimes because you are pulled in lots of different directions. When you're in the leadership role in particular, my background, as you said, is law. So I think I developed a very clear understanding of how to frame a problem, how to navigate solutions, getting from A to B in the sort of with the least drama possible. Sometimes the things clash and you can't make everything neat and tidy and tie it all up with a little bow. But you just have to acknowledge that at the time, I think, and find little ways to keep yourself on track and sort of in check. So checking in mind, body again and trying to give yourself a bit of grace and a bit of space when things aren't going as you would hope they were.
You've spoken quite a lot about well-being and about being connected to yourself. How do you feel successful without making those sorts of sacrifices?
It's completely about balance for me now. Again, maybe 10 years ago, I would have said it's a particular job title, it's a particular salary, it's a particular project that has been completed. Whereas now, I'm delighted with my current job. It's my best job so far, I always tell people. But it comes with its challenges. And one of them is making sure I create space for myself personally, for my family, for my friends, for my relationships, for my colleagues. So leaving enough room week by week makes me feel successful, like enabling that kind of connection. And the weeks I don't feel successful is when I've not left that space. And I think, okay, need to reset here, like reframe, because we've not done quite so well this week.
Did you have experienced burnout? Have you had to develop strategies to make sure that, to keep yourself honest with the sorts of things that you're talking about here?
100%. So when I was in legal practice, it was very common, it remains very common to be working incredible hours and prioritising that over almost everything else. And I've definitely come close to burnout in the course of my career over various different jobs. In terms of the strategies I've put in place or tried to put in place, it comes back to boundaries, trying to make sure you're protecting your peace as far as possible in sometimes difficult circumstances. Looking after myself, that old adage about fitting your own oxygen mask first, otherwise you won't be able to help anybody else. Yeah. And connecting with people, actually, like finding your support crew. And they might not be at work. They might be within your family. They might be within your friendship group. Finding, I can't think. No one's springing to mind. But but finding that is really important, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's almost more important to have people outside of your work that can take you out of it and give you a bit of perspective. And coming back to your purpose. Like, why am I doing this? Do I really believe in it? Is it worth it? Happy to say in the job I'm in now, it's all about purpose. It's fascinating to be in biotech and to be in drug discovery and working with incredible scientists who really want to make a difference. So that's really inspiring. Yeah, no, I love it. And I do think, though, there's something about, in particular for women, though, burnout, right, as a topic for us. I think the last study I was aware of the figures from would have been a McKinsey one, which was about 56% of women burnt out. And certainly something I saw recently, which was actually men and women for 10,000 plus person study in 6 countries. By the Future Forum, it was something like 40% were burnt out, right? Wow. Overall, right? So certainly burnout is a thing, right? It's a big thing, but it seems to be so much higher for women. And I'm just curious because there are so many challenges that we face when it comes to approaching leadership roles as women. But the proportion of us who are burning out is really quite catastrophic. It's a lot. Why do you think that is? Ooh, I think there are several reasons. One of them is that we are in a world of work which isn't necessarily designed for women. The system that we work within is quite always on. And we are cyclical creatures, right? We kind of wax and wane in terms of energy levels and so on over the course of our life. So I think there's a fundamental disconnect there. I think we also take on a huge amount as women at work, in home, in caring situations, in our friendships, and we tend to have more on our plates and keep saying yes to things when we probably should be saying, actually, I can't take any more on here. And we do that at work as well. I know so many women in the workplace who suddenly have found themselves responsible for, extra projects because they happen to be very competent and just get loaded with more work and don't know how to advocate for themselves and to say, actually, no, this isn't for me. That's your job. Or just be that sort of pushing back. I think the sort of the expectation of feminine caring or like coping really still exists, and people just expect us to get on with things in a way that perhaps isn't the same for men in the workplace. Yeah, and it's a kind of mutual expectation, isn't it? It's like the society is expecting us to be one way, and we're also in society and expecting us to be that one way too. Oh, correct. Yeah, right? 100%. Yeah. And then we get stuck. So when it came to you finding your own voice and being able to really
have the boundaries that you've needed to have the career that you've had. How did you do that?
Practice. So I've always been pretty confident about speaking up and advocating for myself. But really it's a muscle that you build. And the more you speak up, the better you are at it. Cultivating a group of mentors and advocates for me in various different businesses was really important as well. So, people in leadership or people more senior to me who would help, bring the best out. And listening to feedback, actually, and taking it as data rather than taking it as, a sort of fundamental assessment of my character or something like that, right? Using that data and processing it, trying to make data-driven decisions so that when you are speaking up, you know that you've got a sort of sensible and secure foundation to stand on. It can be quite challenging to present your idea to a room full of colleagues or to advocate for somebody else. It's almost the initial thing of saying something out loud in a meeting. As soon as you've broken that, you might even just introduce yourself to somebody. It can be a really great way to just start helping speak up.
And that is such a great point, though. That is such a great tip. The more that you say something, anything, the easier it is to say something, anything. Suddenly, you've taken up a little bit of agency, a little bit of space, and then when it comes to the next thing or the idea that's popped into your head, I just think you're so much more likely to say it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, it is a muscle that you build. The more you speak up, the easier it becomes. And the expectation that is set around you.
Yeah.
People are thinking you're going to speak. Knowing you over the course of your career, I can imagine there were meetings that you've been in various different roles where if you hadn't spoken up in the meeting, people would have been like, is Ruth okay? what's up? So it's sort of building that expectation around you as well, which is why the network helps, right? The mentors in business and people to bounce ideas off before a meeting perhaps, and just to share strategies, etc.
Yeah, but for you personally, what would you say your biggest challenges have been when it comes to taking up space as a leader, to navigating male-dominated spaces as a woman in leadership and also as a female CEO?
There's a real perception, the expectation, the societal expectation of how a woman's going to behave in a particular role. When traditionally women have gone into leadership roles, we have perhaps adopted more male characteristics. I'm thinking of the old example of Margaret Thatcher getting a voice coach to deepen her voice, to be taken more seriously. So that's a really physical thing to do. Leave her politics to one side, but that's a physical change that was made in order to accommodate. Now, I appreciate it's 60 years ago or whatever, but there are lots of things that are out there that the sort of the barriers that you have to push up against and hopefully get over, and perception is a big one. The thing that was most difficult for me sometimes turns to an advantage though, because I was in very male-dominated spaces a lot. So, you kind of either shrivel and die or you have to just step into it. I certainly spent the early part of my career in the city, I think, being a bit more sort of in that masculine sort of space and trying to be one of the guys or whatever. But as I've come through my career, I've definitely begun to sort of just be more defined as a woman in leadership, and not to shy away from the upsides and the benefits and the different skill set that you bring to the table, and to sort of revel in the difference almost.
Yeah, because it's a beautiful difference. And I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, based on the society that we find ourselves in, is this just a rite of passage that women are going to go through, right? Because if I think about myself when I was growing in my career, the only way I did that was by being in my masculine energy, right? Yeah. By pushing, by driving, by delivering, by executing, and by going for the things that I wanted and developing the confidence to be able to go after them, right? At the same time. And then it was towards my late 30s that I was like, hang on a minute, I feel like a part of me is missing. And it was my lunar energy, my feminine energy, the softer side. I'd still had a big great big beating heart the whole time.
Yeah.
But I'd also been in the driving, delivering,
And the conforming. Right?
And the conforming.
The conforming. The outward perception might be that you are standing out and you are behaving differently, but actually you're following a path that is the same path that everybody has been following diligently, because that's how you succeed. Maybe your hair's different, or maybe you're wearing earrings, or I don't know, like maybe there's something that you're trying to break out of that, but ultimately you're conforming until you embrace the whole picture. I think one thing that really, really helped me as I developed a deeper connection to the authenticity and like realizing who I was and not just conforming, was knowing when to go. Realizing when an environment is not going to change, you're not going to change it, and actually being strong enough to go, that's okay, I don't need to be here anymore, I'm going to go somewhere else and try it again, try on a different outfit. So knowing when to go, I think, can be a challenge, but a really important question to ask yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, many of the women that I coach today are in some form of recovery from the job that they've left. A toxic boss. Usually narcissistic, who has gaslit them, and they've struggled to, and they've sort of started to lose their identity, and they're trying to figure out, who am I really, right? And I think that happens for so many women. But I'm curious, when it came to that moment of like, okay, actually, no, I want to be all of who I am, like, where did that start for you? And, when you think about this idea of balancing the beautiful masculine and feminine energy that we all have in us, right? But knowing that obviously it doesn't have to be, it's not equal in every human, right? We all have a natural, healthy expression of both, right? How have you navigated that yourself?
With difficulty. I think it's definitely getting stronger as I get older, right?
There's something about being in our 40s, isn't
right?
There's
something about
it.
And I think, I hear good things about the 50s too.
You know what?
Just to let you know.
Girl.
So, I've said it already, but I felt really like I needed to be in that sort of striving, kind of aggressive, masculine kind of. I was in a litigation as well, right? So, you are arguing for a living. That's what you're doing, and you're trying to make sure you win.
The image that just flashed into my mind was like fight dog, but like really, you got to be able to, like a fighting
club. It takes a really long time to like shrug that off, and to recognize the sort of magnificent diversity that you can bring to something if you're embracing both sides of yourself, that masculine and that feminine energy. So I don't think there was any one thing that I did. It certainly wasn't like, I flipped a switch and suddenly I'm like, oh, okay, great, everything's good. It's been an evolution and it continues, right? Again, progress, not perfection, but it just feels like an unfolding in a way.
Yeah. And if you think back over your career, I like to think of careers in terms of, and life in terms of seasons, right? And I don't just mean in the sense of what time of year we're in. It's like sometimes we're in a long season of winter and decay. Hopefully get a slightly longer summer sometimes, who knows?
Yep.
But if you think back over your life and career, which season would you say has shaped you the most?
It's this one. It's this last couple of years. Probably the 6 years that I've been with OCT has been transformational in so many ways, personally, professionally as well. I think in particular the last couple of years, so I took on the CEO role in December 2022. So it's coming up for 2 years. And it's been hugely challenging, right? It's been a fantastic job, as I said, my favourite job so far. But it is a hugely challenging role. Like, you're stepping into a leadership role officially, having been an individual contributor as part of a team for a long time. And it was my business to know my part and to get that done and execute it well. And then it suddenly overnight became my business to know everybody's part, not to do that work, which is difficult as a lawyer in particular. You're quite used to having your list of things, tangible, deliverable outcomes that you need to get done by the end of the day, the hour, the minute, whatever it is, right? Suddenly my diary went from those types of very easy to identify deliverables to much more strategic, much more focused on the team and growing the people and taking responsibility for the culture of the organisation, and so slightly less tangible deliverables. And that's been a huge challenge. It's been a phenomenal one. But yeah, it's been the one that's, I think, delivered the most change for me in the last, I don't know how long, yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you've existed in the world where you are getting validated by the work that you deliver and the outputs that you create personally, it is a big transition, right? It's a big leap to then suddenly be actually validated by just the team doing well. I certainly experienced that for myself, and I've seen it so many times in others. And there can be this tension between letting go, actually, of still, and realising that actually you're better off delegating most of it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I have actually always been good at delegation. One of my supervisors when I was a trainee was like, I don't know how you're managing to delegate this stuff up to me, because that's not the way it usually works. But it's okay, we're still friends. It's a big transition, and what actually really helped me was talking to other CEOs about it and people who had come from different roles as well.
Yeah.
And they all had this same thing of like, officially sort of day one of the new job, and suddenly everything's changed, and you're kind of sitting there like, well, what did I do today? What did I deliver? And actually what you did was you went and met some investors for a kind of keep warm, a lunch or coffee or something, and then you talked to your team about the project that they're working on, and you gave people energy and momentum and helped set their focus. And then you've talked to maybe a partner that you want to work with, and it's just a soft conversation about how that might develop over time. And I can't really write down what I've done there, but it's a huge part of how you create the organisation and help the business grow and progress.
No, it's huge. And as CEO, I'm going to imagine that you obviously have quite a lot of unforeseen things and challenges that come your way, setbacks, or, whatever we want to call them.
Headwinds. I like to call them headwinds.
Headwinds. How do you navigate those? How do you bounce back when something's thrown you off, whether that's personally or professionally?
I think two ways. When you're in it, when there's something that's, gone awry, but you have to get it done. I take this from my husband, actually. His phrase is, bite down on the mouth guard and keep going, right? Ex-rugby player, so
Thank you for clarifying.
That's where that comes from, the mouth guard reference. So sometimes you just have to grit your teeth and crank through something, because that's just what's in front of you. But when stuff comes in, or when you've got that through and then you've got some time to reflect, that's a really important part of the process for me, of processing setbacks or managing headwinds. Reflect on what's happened, why you've got there, what were the signs, are there things we've missed along the way, what will we do differently next time? And then it's sort of an adjust, like let's readjust. Maybe I need to put some different boundaries in place. Maybe the team needs to juggle. Maybe it's not the right partner that we're working with, or, there's lots of things that could be different. So it's a bit of a recalibration, right? So you adjust things. What's really important for me is seeking support, right? Asking for help, whether that's just to go through and process what's happened, or to help get a better understanding of it. But getting that sort of external support from maybe somebody in work, maybe somebody outside of work, family, friend, whatever, I think that's really important. And then when you've got all that out of the way, you need to act on it, because it's no good just sort of doing that stuff and then letting it sort of sit there. You need to make a tangible change that means you're less likely to hit that particular pothole in the future.
Yeah. And so you mentioned something early on about kind of mind-body connection. How much of a factor does that play in this level of discernment, right? Of being able to actually figure out what's going on for you?
It's so important. I think it's transformational. It's the foundation for everything. I know, you know me well. And you've actually been a very important part of me connecting my mind and my body properly. And with, the yoga practice and then other examples that you give me. The mind-body connection really is the underpinning of everything. When it's not connected, I feel it almost instantly. Things have gone a bit off-piste, and you're off track, and you don't feel as centered and as still and as present and as able to handle the sort of buffets of whatever's coming at you, the headwinds that we've talked about. But the things I do to make that connection happen are the meditation. Like, I've been doing that daily, as I said, for years and years now, I think. Even if it's only short, And by the way, like, it's not good every time. It's not even good most of the time. It changes every time, but it's worth it every time.
Yeah.
And it's not long. At most, I'd practice for 15 minutes a day on that. Can be as short as 3 minutes or 2 minutes, but it really helps me to have that consistent, and it's something I do at the very beginning of the day as well. So it's that kind of grounding sort of starter, I suppose. Anything that you can do to bring yourself into a greater connection is a good thing. And it might be that meditation's not the thing for you. It might be being outside, going for a walk first thing in the morning and making a beautiful cup of tea and sitting and drinking it just by yourself, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be anybody else's cup of tea, but just something to help you stay connected.
Yeah, because it's been huge, and obviously we know each other, and the reason that it's so important to me is because I became aware of just how disconnected I'd been, and just how much I hadn't been feeling, or rather had been ignoring. And the truth is the signals the body sends us, gang, it's there for a reason. Your body is telling you what it needs. It's telling you when you're in the wrong environment. It's telling you when you need to change something. But for a lot of us, we're not living in a way where we get to hear it. So anything that you can do to really find the moments of peacefulness with yourself. And those were great examples. And no, meditation isn't for everyone, particularly those of us with trauma living in our nervous system. I heard recently it's like you're trying to apply a thinking solution to a body-based problem, right? Because what's actually happening if you do have a certain amount of trauma coursing through your veins is that you are on high alert. And, you're not going to think your way out of that without connecting to what's actually happening in your body and learning some practices that will help you to start to breathe out a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, here and there.
Because it catches up if you don't, right? I mean, you're right to say the body's always trying to talk to you and tell you what it needs and what you should be doing. And, I've certainly been in environments, work environments, where my body's been telling me really loudly that I need to get a move on. And get out of there. So, it comes up in all sorts of ways. But if you don't listen, it just gets louder.
Until it screams. I've had a screamer too.
Yes.
So tell me, from everything that we've just spoken about, if you look back over your career so far, because obviously just getting started, but, what's one thing that you wish that you'd learned sooner?
Oh, my goodness. I wish that I'd learned sooner. Just because I find something easy doesn't mean that it's easy for everybody. So
Not
to discount something I'm good at, because I assume other people will be doing the same thing, right? And I think particularly as women, we're really good, actually, ironically, really good at talking down our abilities and our achievements and not wanting to stick our heads above the parapet, for good reason, frankly, because people take pot shots at you if your head's up there. But it's making sure that I recognise the things that I'm good at and I'm proud about them and going for it, rather than sort of trying to make other people feel comfortable.
Yeah, and celebrate the things you're not good at, right, as well. We literally think the things that we're good at aren't even skills.
Yes, totally.
And we idolise other people with their way of thinking, with their way of saying things, and we think that people are better than us. And actually, when you actually look at what you can do, it really is remarkable.
Reminds me of that Strengths Finder thing that we did many years ago.
We did.
Yeah, you told me off. Because
I did. I told her off.
You should tell it.
So I'd recently done the Gallup Strengths Finder and thought, wow, because I'd had this amazing revelation, gang, where I realised that all these things I'd taken for granted about myself were actually skills. And it was shocking. Like, I was like, you mean connecting to others is a skill and other people can't just do that? Whoa, dude. Like, couldn't believe it. And so I, of course, was like, Clarissa, you've got to try this thing. Clarissa, though, you were still in law.
I was, yeah.
You were a lawyer at that point.
Yes.
And I was like, how did you get on with that thing later on? And she said, really good. So what I've done, I've mapped out all the things that I'm not great at, and then I'm planning how I can get better at them. You want to pick it up from there, dear?
Yeah, sure. So, it wasn't my finest moment. But I think one of the strengths that had come up for me was achiever, right? And in the in that strength, what you want to be is good at everything.
Good at everything.
So instead of taking the premise of the book, which is, find those things you're good at, and so you've got a natural aptitude of 10 in this particular skill, and apply a 10 level of effort, outcome's 100 outcome, right?
Yeah.
Don't try and apply a 10 level of effort to something you're a 2 at,
yeah.
which is what I was trying to do with the rest of the skills.
Yeah.
Because you come out with a 20. It's not an efficient use of time. But it comes back to recognising that stuff that we don't always realise is a skill.
Yeah.
And making sure we're making the most of it and not just sort of passing it off because it's easy for us.
Exactly right. Well, my dear, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out to speak with us today. I really, really, really appreciate it. And I know our viewers and listeners will love it too.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. If you have liked this episode, please share it with someone who might need to hear some of what we were talking about. Go and check out our other episodes, and then also head over to ourtimetobloom.com to find out more about Bloom and how you can get involved.